On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Eternal Blue by Spiritbox. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist Podcast. I'm Cal.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal. We like to talk about it. And today we're talking about an album from last year. It's called Eternal Blue by Spiritbox, another Canadian band.
Yeah, from British Columbia. We talked about BC last week and BC this week.
Yes. Yeah. And we're continuing our theme of Female February. We've gone with all female vocalists.
Right.
Which I think is usually what we end up doing.
It is.
But
not all the time.
Not all the time, but Spiritbox, fantastic band that I had heard of, but I had not given a fair shake to before today. And I was familiar with the singer from a previous band that she had been in, but I was like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't really seem like my thing. And then last week I was like, okay, what's another band that I know? Oh, Spiritbox. Let's listen to that. And Jesus. I wish I had started listening to Spiritbox sooner. My God, this is so good.
Yeah, and it's different than a lot of stuff.
Oh, I was trying to figure out earlier today what to call this genre. I mean, they play around with so many different genres, and song to song, it's not necessarily consistently the same sound.
No,
but in general, the term I came up with, and I told you this earlier, the term that I came up with was dream gent.
Dream gent, yeah.
And
it sounds like a strip club for ladies.
Yeah, yes. It reminds me of an album we listened to last year, which was the Kardashev album that we listened to.
Okay, yeah.
Vaguely similar to that, where very, sort of dreamy, kind of progressive, very spacey sort of sound. But this is like so much poppier in a sense than that is. Like there are some extremely catchy songs.
Very catchy songs
on this album.
There's one,
and I do not mean that. I do not mean that in a derisive way.
No,
at all. Like catchy is not a bad thing necessarily.
No, it's something I want to hear that again. And there's actually one song on here that might be my favorite song, or it might be my least favorite song. I'm not sure. I had to back out. I got to listen to that fucking thing again. This is great.
I feel like if that's if it was truly your least favorite song, then you would not have wanted to listen to it again.
You got a point there.
If you truly disliked it, you would have gone, I don't need to listen to that again.
It was something that had aspects that I normally don't care for in a song. I'm like, man. Okay, well, they executed it relatively well. Back it up.
Let's listen to this again. Yeah. Let's make sure we're getting it right. I understand that sentiment, though. Like, there's songs where it's like, I got to figure this out.
Right.
It's like a problem that you're trying to solve in figuring out whether or not it's something that you enjoy.
I do that with food, too. But I mean, yeah.
Did I like this? Let's eat it again.
Yeah.
Let's find out.
Sure.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I mean, this is week number, I don't even know, living on my own.
Why keep count?
And here's the thing. The thing that I was most worried about since, the divorce was the fact that I wasn't going to see, the children
kids
enough. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's at least with the youngest one so far, hasn't been as successful with the 15-year-old.
Yeah.
But with the youngest one so far, I think we are bonding more now than we ever have.
That's good.
Because, I mean, I pick him up from school and we're alone until his mom comes and picks him up. And, and it's, hey, we're going to watch this awesome cartoon. Now, I want you to just repeat after me. Mom, we just played video games.
And which cartoon is that?
Oh, just some things where people were like doing in Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, so you did watch Legend of Vox Machina today?
A little bit, yeah.
A little
started
bit.
It started over, and then I did one of the, at one point I went like, and here. Nope.
This is you mean Scanlan's
introductory scene, yes.
In Legend of Vox Machina.
Uh-huh.
Yes. But yeah, what a great show, by the way.
Fantastic.
If you're like vaguely interested in Critical Role, but do not want to invest the truly gargantuan amount of time to consume them season by season. I know at least one person. I think my cousin still listens to us, but she did that. That's what she did with like her summer is watch all of Critical Role,
which is not a bad way to spend your time.
I did that with season 2. I haven't watched all of season 1 or campaign 1, if you want to call it that. But I think that Legend of Vox Machina is a good way to consume that content, because in a lot of ways it's like there are some minor changes that they made to the plot thus far. Nothing huge, but like there are some changes that I'm aware of that strike me as things like, you know what, if we went back and did that again, how would we do it differently? Right. Here's how we're going to do that. Like,
because, obviously, I mean, if you don't know what we're talking about, I mean, they're just playing D&D. Therefore, all the stuff they're doing is somewhat off the cuff. I mean, it's just we're making it up as we're going along. And if you do that with, actual writing a story and you look back on it and you go, oh, this was dumb.
There are some things that it would change or things that the players were thinking internally that like didn't get externalized. I think they're making a concerted effort to make some of the romances feel a bit more natural because like in season 1, if you haven't watched season 1, I guess this is mild spoilers, but like season 1 of Legend of Vox Machina, throughout it, 2 characters
are slowly falling in love.
Vax and Keyleth are like slowly falling in love, and their love story in campaign 1 sort of went from like, oh, Vax is being kind of flirty because that's how he is with everyone. And all of a sudden Vax and Keyleth are like together. Sure. And he's been in love with her. And that was that was Liam, the player, going like, my character is in love with her character, but they hadn't really let that breathe, on the stream out loud. And so a lot of people were blindsided by that because a lot of people wanted to see Vax with the shopkeeper. It was right. Fucking I can't remember. Gilmore, yeah. Gilmore's wonderful. By the way, in every form, whether it's Matt Mercer as Gilmore or the voice
Does he
actor.
Voice Gilmore in the show?
No. Okay. I can't remember who voices Gilmore in Legend of Vox Machina, but obviously every character that's not one of the main characters was voiced by Matt Mercer.
Right, sure.
On the stream.
The GM,
the dungeon master. The only main character that Matt voiced in Legend of Vox Machina is Lord Briarwood. Ah, sure. Is what's his name? What's his first name? It starts with Silas. Silas, right? Silas Briarwood. It was that was one that Matt was like, I'm gonna hold on to that one.
I need to insist.
I think Silas is like one of Matt's favorite characters that he's played as far as like villains go. But yeah, Legend of Vox Machina on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime and are vaguely interested in just fantasy, right? If you want to watch an adult animated fantasy show, there you go. It's wonderful. The animation is great.
I probably should have let the kids see the tits because that was my introduction.
Was animated fantasy.
Animated tits. Yeah.
Animated fucking heavy metal.
Yeah, the movie Heavy Metal. Yeah, did I told you about it?
Let the kids see the tits.
Yeah. Well, I had a friend. His dad had it on Laserdisc.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and he called me and says, "Oh, Jay,
there's boobs in this.
Gotta fucking come over.
There's there's cartoon boobies, man."
And then like a month later, I was in a strip club. I mean,
so it would have happened eventually.
Yeah, eventually it would have happened.
It would have happened. Laserdisc strikes me as such a strange format because didn't you have to do you have to flip over a Laserdisc at some point?
Yeah, you do.
Like a fucking vinyl record?
Yep. A metal vinyl record. You flip it over at some point, it goes black, and this is flip over
continued
the
on side two.
Yep. And the fun thing is in the early days of transfer, but this was before we had VHS. This is prior to that. what they did was now they will widescreen it. They'll put the black bars on the top and the bottom, which is not it's not the way to look at that. Yeah, you letterbox it. Well, back in the early days, like when I watched Star Wars on Laserdisc, it was everything in a 4:3 ratio.
Yeah,
but it was everything.
Square.
So everybody was like paper thin. I mean,
so they squished it.
They squished it all. I mean,
oh no.
Yeah, they didn't cut off anything. They said no, we want them to see everything, and by doing so, we could really see nothing. I mean,
well, I guess. You would squish it because movies were not necessarily framed to be watched on television.
No, they weren't. No, different aspect ratio entirely.
And like, even if you were filming on a certain aspect ratio, there came to be directors who would like make sure that the action happened in a 4:3 space. So you could cut off the sides if you needed to. Like there are some movies that lend themselves much better to that and seem like they had cinematographers who were thinking that way.
But not that early on.
Not that early on, though. No. Absolutely not. But that is a bizarre, that's a strange it's kind of a reverse problem, which is movies that were filmed to be in like a flatter, wider screen that when, played on 4:3 television screens or something like that, you'll see way more like the shot gets so much taller and you end up seeing like the absurdly high ceilings of like the fake sets that they made and shit. That's usually in like bad B movies and stuff. Right. Not in like professional, or actual decent films.
Movies shot by a Nevada realtor. I mean,
fucking Neil Breen is giving a speech at the fucking Mensa Institute.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess they have a sense of humor at Mensa. I mean,
I don't know.
Is he a member?
Maybe. I don't know if Neil Breen is a member of Mensa.
I mean, I figured the only way he makes his movies anyway is that he has some form of deep delusion. That doesn't mean he's stupid, though. I mean,
yeah, no, there are plenty of smart people that are crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't know what presumably he's there to talk about movies. And like the guy is obviously somewhat smart. He was like an architect and stuff. But yeah, if you don't know what we're talking, Neil Breen is a filmmaker who makes professional grade movies that are not midnight movies.
Right.
Those are his words.
Yeah.
Paraphrasing, but
he's saying I don't make porn. That's what he's saying. I make just terrible regular movies.
Yeah, his movies are some of the most watchably awful movies I have ever seen.
Yeah, I mean,
in such a genuine way.
I have a friend of mine who that's kind of what his pastime is, to watch bad movies. And I asked him about Neil Breen. He says, I tried.
Oh man, that's
I really
sad.
tried.
I love Neil Breen movies.
Yeah,
I love them. So it's difficult to watch all of them.
Oh, it is,
because like there's only a couple of them. I don't know if Fateful Findings is still on Amazon. I don't know which of his movies are available and where, but
and what's the
Twisted Pair?
Twisted Pair, that's it.
One of the main characters played by Neil Breen, because he plays the lead in all of his movies.
Yeah, but there's a Twisted Pair 2, by the way, is coming out.
Yes,
that or not?
Yes, one of the Twisted Pair is named Kale.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Which is just mildly upsetting to me to hear my name come out of Neil Breen's lips. But it's kind of that Tommy Wiseau thing of like, how old is this guy?
Yeah.
He's either like 45 or like 70.
Yeah, he's somewhere in there.
It's hard to tell exactly how old he is. In his movies, the things that they share is he almost always plays an extremely powerful, like Messiah type figure with strange, unexplained powers. They're so wild. They're so wild and so poorly made, but I find them hilarious.
Yeah.
I think they're great if you're the type of person that loves to have bad movie nights where you just get drunk and watch an awful fucking film. These are great because they're not bad on purpose, which is something I can't stand.
Yeah, when it's bad on purpose, it's lame. Well, no, and another thing I would suggest, by the way, if you want a Neil Breen movie, don't get it digitally. What you do is you go to the Neil Breen website,
yes,
and you order a fucking DVD, because what you will get then is a hand labeled, manually manufactured DVD, like previously a blank DVD he purchased at the fucking hardware store. I don't know where you buy DVDs. I don't know where you get blank DVDs. What do you get them at the grocer? What is it?
These days I actually don't know where you go to get blank DVDs.
You still get them at like Target and Walmart,
I suppose, probably, but Best Buy. But because when you order them from his website, you also you go to order. This might not be the case anymore. I have not checked recently.
Sure.
But the only button to click on is to order Fateful Findings. But then in the comment box for your order, you specify that you actually want to purchase a different film.
So it's a little bit convoluted, his ordering process.
He's fascinating, and he's such a weird guy, seems to have some really weird beliefs about things.
Sure.
I find him very, very interesting.
And he's a realtor. He also he has a license to sell houses in Nevada.
Yes, in Las Vegas specifically, where most of his movies take place.
Right.
Most of his movies take place in Las Vegas, filmed on location, probably without permission.
Oh, entirely without permission. Or anybody's knowledge.
To their benefit, probably.
Yeah.
If they knew a Neil Breen movie was being made.
Right. Hey, we're going to watch this funny movie. Come on in. Cool. That's the lobby of my fucking casino.
That's my house.
What are they doing in my living room?
Filmed in my house.
That's my garage.
How did he do that?
I don't remember there being blood on the floor of my garage.
And that's my Ferrari
that he's driving away in.
An infamous scene in Fateful Findings takes place in a garage with a Ferrari and lots of blood on the ground.
And a very painful, emotional scene.
Oh, God.
And performance by Neil.
That's the other thing, is that he cannot act.
No, he
stars in all of his movies. He is a terrible actor.
Right. Again, like the Tommy Wiseau thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the difference between him and Tommy Wiseau is that Tommy Wiseau went to acting school and thus completely overacts.
Right. He chews all the scenery.
He's ludicrously over the top, which is why he's so great. Neil Breen is exactly the opposite. Everything is delivered so flat and almost naturalistically. It's just that I'm certain he's an alien. So his naturalistic emotion is different than most people's.
I'm sorry.
I think Neil Breen might be an alien from another planet. Probably the same planet as like Mark Zuckerberg. But yeah, he's watch a Neil Breen movie if you can. They're just be drunk when it happens and you'll probably have a better time. But I was talking to you earlier. I'm excited about Elden Ring coming out soon. The new game from Software.
See, I've only played part of one FromSoft game.
A very small part of one FromSoft game.
Yes, Bloodborne. I enjoy it. It's frustrating as all get out, but I mean,
Again, you also, I know you bought it because it was the cheapest one on the PlayStation Store. But you also picked one of the most frustrating ones to start with, I think, because it is by far one of the most frenetic and fast-paced, reaction-driven games in their compendium,
which is probably good. It's boot camp. It's boot camp for FromSoft. Once you get out of this one,
once you've beaten Bloodborne, then
the rest of them are going to be.
You can probably handle any of them.
Yeah,
that's kind of like in Dark Souls 1, it's like, okay, if you got all the way through Blighttown, then the rest of Dark Souls probably won't frustrate you terribly. Like Blighttown is, I think Blighttown is also its bark is worse than its bite because there are a lot of people who did not play Dark Souls Remastered first. They played the original version of Dark Souls, in which Blighttown was, and they played it on consoles too.
Oh, sure.
And Blighttown was a horrible, horrible mess where your frame rate got brought down to about 10.
Yeah.
The technical performance of Blighttown on the PS3 and Xbox 360 was truly atrocious. And I think that's a large part of the reason why people hate Blighttown is because it ran so terribly.
But it's fine now.
It's fine. The remastered version of Blighttown runs fine. It's still annoying because it is this massive, sort of hard to navigate ramshackle settlement built on the side of a wall that you're making your way down. And at the bottom is a poison swamp.
Whee!
Where you stand in it and you get poisoned, and you need a specific item to cure that poison that you might not know that you need that item to cure the poison. And it's Blighttown can be very frustrating. And also at the bottom, there are giant mosquitoes that constantly respawn. You cannot kill all of them. They will come back and they harass you. And if you aren't carrying a ranged weapon with you, they're very difficult to deal with.
That's kind of like mosquitoes in real life, really.
That's true. Yeah. If you're not carrying a bow and arrow to take care of those mosquitoes in real life, it can be a real problem.
That's how I train bow and arrow, shooting mosquitoes.
It's a great archery shooting mosquitoes.
Yeah.
But that seems to be one of the things, like it for Elden Ring, which is the new one, is also that like magic seems like it's a lot more fun. And like archery and like ranged weapons actually seem to be a viable path for a main weapon, which they have never been in any Souls game ever. Like ranged weapons have almost never been a primary choice.
In Bloodborne, you get, but it's your left hand. You get a blunderbuss and a six shooter. But I mean,
you use guns to parry in Bloodborne.
Yeah,
that's mostly what they're for.
Yes,
and for like interrupting and staggering attacks, so that you can then beat the shit out of them with whatever you're holding in your right hand.
Right.
But yeah, in
your cane
in Souls games, they are very much like almost always have been weapons that you use in very specific scenarios for very specific things, even though there's a ton of different varieties of them, as if they could be main weapons, but they never are. But it seems like that bows are a more viable thing to try and use as like a primary thing. And magic looks really fun. There's always been magic in Dark Souls games, but
of some sort.
I in my playthroughs have not used them because they don't look, it doesn't look all that fun to me. And like pyromancy in Dark Souls 1 was ludicrously overpowered to a degree that it didn't look fun, because it was just like, walk in and maybe you dodge a couple of times, but hit him with enough fireballs and watch the health absolutely drain away.
You started to feel like the later seasons of One Punch Man.
Yeah. It's like, it didn't seem all that attractive to me, but watching people use magic in Elden Ring is like, ooh, that actually looks like a lot of fun. So there is a starting class that is like a magic knight, where you are wearing like a set of like light plate armor, and you have like a staff. They call them catalysts, which is basically, it's a magic staff or a wand or whatever in one hand, and then I think a spear in the other. It's like, I might have to do that one, because I like in D&D what they would call a Gishi character, which is melee and magic. I like that combo. I like paladins. I like eldritch knights.
That was how I played Skyrim as well, as
a spell sword or whatever they want to call it. And that's what I've heard it referred to in Skyrim. As spell sword.
Yeah, I would max up on one-handed, and then my left hand would be magic. And mostly healing.
Yeah. Well, that's also like, I guess unless it, like in PC, you can have shortcuts, the keyboard shortcuts and whatnot.
Yeah, you don't have that
on the number pad. But on console, like I remember I wanted to play like a paladin on console, but it's a pain in the ass to switch between two-handed and like healing spells.
It's
more viable.
I mean, it pauses the game, but
it's more
it makes it clunky.
It's more viable to do that on PC.
Sure.
Or to just do a one-handed build and then have the healing spell. But yeah, fun stuff. I'm hoping to. I don't know when I'm gonna finish Dark Souls 3, and I think I'm gonna finish Dark Souls 3 before I play Elden Ring.
Okay.
Which makes me a little sad because I don't want to miss out on like that first week, because in order to finish Dark Souls 3 as soon as possible, I would basically have to spend every waking moment that I'm not at work playing it, and maybe I'd be done with it by the end of the weekend. But also I have Dungeons and Dragons to prep for.
Right.
I have 2 sessions to prep for. I'm DMing for my Saturday group and my Sunday group, so it's like,
you know what you should do? You should just combine those.
Yeah, that'll work.
Whatever happens in Dark Souls, just write it down.
Oh no, you don't want that. For your character's sake, you don't want that.
I don't know. I got a lot more hit points than I had before.
Yeah, we found out
I was running on too few. I had an ad.
Had forgotten to raise your health since your last level up.
And on this one, and I went through the book too. I'm looking, do I want this feat? Do I want this feat? And I look at my constitution and I thought, no.
That's just give me more health.
Just give me more health.
It's a viable choice. It's always a viable choice.
Right.
I think there are very few objectively poor decisions in 5th edition. It's very different from 3rd edition in that regard. There's an absolute possibility in 3rd edition that you would take an ability that seemed cool that would actually make your character not great. Like 3rd edition, it was very possible to make a character that was just bad at everything, and to not have that be your intent.
It definitely wasn't the case in 2nd edition, so that must have happened between the two somehow.
Wizards of the Coast's thing with their early...
It wasn't WotC when I played it.
TSR was different. With Wizards early like RPGs on the D20 system, everything was a feat. Like the feat system in 5th edition is an optional thing. Everything in 3rd edition was related to feats, which was great for customization because you can make every single character feel unique mechanically.
Right.
That's much less of a thing in 5th edition. Characters are a lot more cookie cutter by design, and the individuality comes from how you play them personally.
Right.
But
they're stronger. They're stronger as a character.
Yeah. In 3rd edition, there was a lot more cool shit that you theoretically could do, but it got to the point where there were so many source books for character abilities that it is positively unwieldy. And also you can make things that absolutely completely fucking destroyed the game.
Sure.
And that Wizards tried very hard. Like they released 3.5, which was, hey, we fixed all the broken stuff. It still wasn't. It wasn't fixed. But 5th edition is a lot harder to make characters that are bad.
Yeah.
It's, there's still obviously ways to optimize the character that you're playing. It's not nearly as crunchy as it was in 3.5. Some people don't care for that, and those people usually play Pathfinder instead. Because Pathfinder is literally just D&D 3.5 made by a different company. The 4th edition came out and people went, no! And so Pathfinder happened.
Right. So they just play games in their Nissan and they're...
Yes, they play games on their Nissan Pathfinder. Do you want to talk about the album?
What album are we talking about?
We're talking about Eternal Blue.
Yeah.
By Spiritbox. We mentioned they're a Canadian band. They were formed in 2017.
Not recently?
Yes, they're a fairly new band. They were formed by a married couple, which consists of Courtney LaPlante and her husband, the guitarist Mike Stringer.
Is it LaPlante or LaPlante?
I don't know, actually. I've always said LaPlante. It might be LaPlante. I don't know.
Right. LaPlante sounds like maybe she's from Quebec, but she's actually from Vancouver. So.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not Vancouver. She's
Victoria.
From Victoria.
At least that's where the band. I think they relocated to Victoria. It was mentioned that they moved at some point recently. I don't know Yeah. Okay. They were formed in Victoria. I think they moved somewhat recently somewhere. Not everyone is Canadian, by the way. Their drummer is from Philadelphia. But
is it the same drummer we saw in the video?
Yeah.
'Cause he seems like he might be somebody's nephew they brought in. I mean,
yeah, he looks like a young guy.
He's a young kid.
Like they set him down in front of a drum kit, and he plays extremely well.
He's great, yeah,
but he just looks bored. He looks bored and almost like he doesn't belong there, but he plays really well.
He looks like a bored 14-year-old.
I think that's just his concentration face.
Sure.
But yeah, they have a
resting drummer face.
Resting drummer face.
Yeah.
they did a series of live performances on Sirius XM that are on YouTube, and the engineering is ludicrously great for like a live radio performance. It's fantastic. And also it was recorded, in their homes because this was December of 2020. But yeah, they formed in 2017. Both Courtney and I already forgot the guitarist's name, Mike. Both Courtney and Mike had been a part of a band called I Wrestled a Bear Once previously. And they had ended up in this band and sort of felt like they didn't really belong.
Sure.
I guess they were formed. I guess it says here that Spiritbox was formed in 2015. I think 2017 was like one of their first releases.
So they've been around for a bit. Now
it says that it was formed in 2017. It's the origins. I think the earliest origins of the project were 2015. Maybe when they started like working on stuff together. So yeah, when they both joined I Wrestled the Bear Once, they were not married. They got married in 2016.
Gotcha. They got married after they left the band, or?
I don't know. They had been engaged for 4 years previously.
Okay.
I should have read more of the history before we start. I was focused on listening to the album because it's so fucking good.
It is really good.
That I forgot that I usually do a tiny bit of research on the bands we're talking about before.
It doesn't seem like something we've listened to before on the podcast.
Oh no, this is pretty different than a lot of the stuff that we have listened to. Sort of I said dream gent earlier, but there's also
there's a techno aspect.
There's some electronic. There's shoegaze type stuff.
And she does some voice work in here that is fantastic.
Oh,
like her clean singing, like I told you earlier, and I think I confused with it because in my old man powers threw some stuff at you that you weren't quite.
Yeah, what was the singer you mentioned?
Amy Lee. I think she sounds like she's
singer from Evanescence.
Right,
but like I forgot. I have heard that name before. I knew she was the singer of Evanescence, but I had long since forgotten that because Evanescence has not been a feature in my life since I was a child.
Sure. Yeah, Evanescence formed when I was already in radio.
Yes,
but yeah, you're old. I'm old. She's got that Amy Lee quality, and as I said, if Amy Lee had been produced by Enya,
very dreamy instead of very goth.
And then these just metalcore vocals that she can break into.
Fantastic. It's wonderful. She is very good at both.
There's a couple of songs in there where she sounds like the guy from Architects.
Yeah, well, one of those songs, it actually is the guy from Architects.
I think it's two. There might be two of the songs in it.
No, Sam Carter's only credited on.
Is it only on one
track?
Okay.
There's the track that he's on feels like it's actually like a number of these tracks feel like that. You don't know where the delineation is if you're not paying attention to it because because since it is also fairly progressive in nature, there's tends to be some fairly drastic shifts in dynamic in the middle of a single track, so that when it shifts to an entirely new song, it can kind of be hard to tell sometimes.
If you want to find something where you can just do a regular dance to, this is not it.
Yeah, this ain't it for you.
No, this ain't it.
But Sam Carter's only credited on the song Yellow Jacket.
Right.
But yeah, her scream vocals, I do think
fantastic.
Her screen vocals do, and like a lot of them remind me of Sam Carter.
Sure,
genuinely. But she's her vocals for I Wrestled a Bear Once were also fantastic.
Nice.
I remember like hearing that was the first time I had ever heard female metal vocalist do screamed or growled vocals.
Really?
That was the first time I'd ever heard that. And this was...
You hadn't heard Arch Enemy yet.
Yeah, I had not heard Arch. This was also before I was really into like death metal.
Sure.
At all. I was still listening primarily to metalcore. And so my knowledge of the metal world was a lot more contained at that point.
Sure.
And there are very few female vocalists in metalcore. I think even compared to like the wider metal world in general, there's not really many female vocalists in metalcore, which is, I mean, I guess it's not weird, but it's like, you know, you look at like melodic death metal and like symphonic metal, especially there's a lot of women in those genres. Compared to other metal genres, the ratio is a lot.
It's a lot tighter.
When compared to, you know, death metal.
Well, I hope
like standard classic death metal.
I hope one of the other female metalcore artists that we know of is doing okay right now. I mean,
I hope Tatiana Shmalyuk is doing well.
Yeah, I mean,
things have not gotten better.
No, they've gotten worse.
They've gotten worse
for them.
But this album is so fantastic. I didn't really look at reviews because, again, I forgot to write notes as I was listening to the album.
Sure.
And then I was watching their live performance on Sirius XM. And it's like, oh, wow, this is great. And while I was showing that to you, I was remarking how, like, it's very much sort of like a Devin Townsend situation where Courtney is genuinely an amazing singer,
yes,
and can pull off these vocals live, but there is also a lot of effects on top of the voice to make it fit with. That's just the type of music that they play. It's
dreamy.
It's and that's Devin Townsend as well. Devin Townsend is an extremely good singer, but when he performs, there's a lot of effects, which is an impressive, like having that amount of effects on your voice in a live performance setting is impressive in and of itself, because that's one of the harder things to put effects on in a live setting
and make it work
and make it actually sound the way you want it to. Like guitars, it's easy. Sure. They're designed to be that way.
Here's my pedal board.
With vocals, it's not nearly as easy.
And I've actually watched just a here's how I do it video with Devin.
And how the fuck? Yeah.
And you're 40 minutes in going, I've got a fucking headache right now. I can't.
What even is any of this shit? What is any of this shit?
And here's my rack system. Well, there are like 8 things he uses on there.
Yeah.
all with 15 knobs.
Gigantic tower. And this is all for my vocals. Yeah. And his guitar setup is 5 times the size.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, and also like Devin Townsend is such a gearhead.
He is
for that shit. But like also much more on the digital end of things than a lot of metal musicians his age tend to be.
Sure.
Like Devin Townsend, he seems to like digital effects. He's not super drawn into the analog world.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a purist.
You're wondering how old
is Devin Townsend?
Isn't he your age? Isn't he like the same age as you?
He just got done just touting the fact, man, it's so crazy that he's lived this long and he's not obsessed with analog
equipment.
Yeah, because usually men who are that much of a fucking fossil
or to just love analog equipment. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of like sleep and stuff.
Sure.
Where, I mean, the famous story from Dope Smokers that they spent all of their money on fucking old cabinets and shit.
He's older than me.
He's older than you.
He's 49.
He's 49. Oh, so much older than you. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. I was just.
But back to the Canadian prog metal artists at hand.
Yeah.
Being Spiritbox. Does this album slap?
Yeah, it slaps.
Absolutely. Not always, and not always in the same way.
Right. There are ways it slaps where it's not like slapping with the open palm hand. It's slapping you with an amazing,
with a palm muted riff.
Yes, exactly.
But with just like some really catchy songs on here.
Yeah.
Some fantastically good. I think like I remember Secret Garden being quite catchy. The song immediately before it is probably the catchiest song on the album, which is The Summit. And I think both of those, I can't remember if there's actually any screamed vocals in either of those, but you don't miss them.
No, right.
Like it's one of those things where like there are sometimes, especially in the metalcore genre, where there are bands that I can be listening to where it's just like, all right, enough of the clean vocals. I'm tired of this. Right. And it's usually because their clean vocals are maybe not the greatest in the world, or they can be kind of annoying. Sure. This, it's like as much of this as I can possibly like. And it's an embarrassment of riches.
It fits over the material, too. I mean, yes. If you hear a lot of clean vocals over what is just really genty guitar, it's like, come on, get to it, will you? I mean,
but there is that though too.
Oh, there is that you hear, but it's not excessive.
There's enough, and also there's enough melody mixed in for the clean vocals to not be entirely out of place. Yes, and that's usually like the melody usually comes not from the guitar, but from whatever like electronic element, right? Keyboard, whatever keyboard is being played in the background.
A lot of the guitar work is very just textural. It's just sort of there to give it that. And punch you in the base of the throat feel,
And like, I know we've been talking a lot about Courtney's vocals, but like Mike Stringer is a very good guitarist.
He is.
He's fantastic. Everyone in the band is pulling their weight. But
even their 14-year-old cousin on drums.
Interesting. There's a past member whose name is Ryan Lurkey, which is my mother's maiden name.
Lurkey?
Lurkey. It's spelled differently though than hers.
Pronounced the same.
I presume.
And
it would be.
Is it German?
Unless it's Lowerk. Yeah. Yeah. Is Lurkey German? Is that a German name?
Is that an Irish name? Lurkey?
Yeah. But Mike Stringer is a fantastic guitarist. And he deserves just as much credit. But this is like, it's so easy to get lost in vocals talking about any band, because that's sure for most people the human element that's most easily connected to. There was there are songs here where there's riffs and there are vocals happening where it's like, I could stay here forever. I could stay inside this piece of music for the rest of my life, and I'd be okay with that. I love when I come across stuff like that where I'm just like, where you feel like I don't want this to end. I don't want this riff to end. Sure. I love when I come across pieces of music like that. I was listening to it's like the last song on Elegy by Shadow of Intent. Sure. Has a moment like that too, with like a riff that I really didn't want to end. I wanted it to keep going.
We haven't talked about that yet, have we?
We have not. And next month is March, and that's something that I wanted to talk about, because it's like I feel like we need to do a catch up. Right. With our metal albums, because we've done 3 themed months in a row. Right. And our next month is technically usually a themed
non-metal
month,
March.
But fuck it. We're the people who make this podcast. We do what we want.
How about non-metal April?
How about Metal March?
Metal March. Fucking A.
Where we specifically do metal, which is so different than what we usually do.
Fucking Metal March. Yeah, I'm down.
Metal March. Okay, we'll do that.
Because I actually had 2 albums in mind. I wasn't sure. In my head, I was like, are we doing Metal March? Are we doing non-Metal March? Or?
Yeah, I just like, we need to do catch up, I think, because there's like, since, I mean, Omicron kind of screwed a number of people's plans seemingly temporarily, because Omicron's already kind of tapering off a bit. Kind of.
You can get it again, though. I mean,
yeah, but like numbers are down globally compared to last month.
So we've got a lot of albums that have been put out. I mean,
a lot of albums got put out because bands were like, we can tour now. Here's an album. Right. And we can tour in support of it. So there's a ton of albums that came out September through January. Right. And they just kind of got overwhelming. So much great music. And it happened immediately before we spend 4 months talking about very specific things. What's your favorite song on this album?
Okay, here's the Holy Roller. Is the song?
Okay, Holy Roller was the song you don't know if you like.
Yeah, I didn't know if I liked it. I had to listen to it again. I'm like,
I think I listened to the intro, and I'm like whenever I hear like the robotic voice or whatever, and I'm like, I don't, whatever. But then the riff hits, and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, I know that was my thing. It was like, oh, this is sort of a cheesy nu metal kind of. Oh no,
and that's I think that's. It's something that I was thinking about as well. Like, that's a nu metal is also absolutely in their DNA.
Yeah, it is
a sizable portion of it, I think. But it's like I listened to that and I'm just like, the robot voice, whatever. But then that big fucking riff hits.
That just sticks in your head.
Just hits you like a goddamn sledgehammer to the face. Yeah. It's so fucking good.
That's a song I had to listen to again.
Yeah, Holy Roller's great. Yeah. I don't know. Again, because I didn't write it down. Yeah. So now I'm kind of deciding in the moment.
The title track is fantastic too.
The title track is good. I thought about and I thought about this as I was listening to it. It was just like, is this my favorite one? Is this my favorite one? I think it's genuinely I can't decide. If I gotta pick one, honestly, The Summit is so fucking catchy.
You're not wrong.
I might have to pick it because I want to go back and I want to listen to it more. I also really like Hurt You going immediately.
Hurt You, yeah. Second track, right?
And then it goes immediately into Yellow Jacket. Those are like a pair of songs that feel like they're one song almost.
But then Yellow Jacket has Sam Smith in it.
Yeah. Yellow Jacket has Sam Carter on it. Right. And the chorus on Yellow Jacket is so fucking good.
Yeah.
Is with Sam and Courtney. It's the chorus is so fucking good. But also I really like Secret Garden as well. Like the song. The song Secret Garden.
Right.
But yeah, it was genuinely, it's hard for me to say what my favorite track is because there's so much of this is so good. It's fantastic, y'all. I don't know what else to say. It's really good, and I wish I had listened. I think I listened to the first couple of tracks a couple months ago, and I was like, whatever. And I think like the first couple of tracks is before you need to listen to at least past Yellow Jacket to really get like what the band is doing.
Oh, I see what they're going for here. Yeah.
Because like the first couple of tracks, most of Hurt You is more metally and more like more genty. And if you only listen to those tracks, you can maybe miss out on all the rest of the stuff that they're doing. You're just like, oh, they're kind of a spacey gent band, whatever. Sure. I've heard this before. But you listen past that and you listen to Secret Garden and The Summit and you're like, oh, this is different. This is different. This isn't like something I've heard before. And it really isn't. I've not really heard something quite like this before. I'm really glad it exists. I think it's fantastic. So listen to Eternal Blue.
Indeed. By
Spiritbox. What metal are you bestowing upon this, like Maskanata to Chewbacca?
I sort of wavered on it because I wasn't sure how to feel on it, but to feel on it? I wasn't sure how to feel about it. But I think it's a gold. I think it gets a gold for me.
This is absolutely a fucking gold for me. I'm going to be, I found this, my next like 2 or 3 months probably, like adding it into the rotation of fucking Whitechapel and God, the new fucking, my rotation of like Whitechapel and, Shadow of Intent and also the new fucking Silent Planet album that we haven't gotten to talk about either. Like there's so many new fucking albums that are so good that have come out in the last like 4 months, which is a great problem to have.
It is
a great problem.
It's a very wealthy problem.
So what album do you want to talk about next Wednesday? It'll be March. And we're going to do whatever you want. If you want to talk about something that's not metal, go ahead. If you want a metal album you want to talk about, then do that too.
I'm dropping both of the things that I was going to pick.
Okay.
And I think we need to talk about it because it's important.
Yes.
Even though I think every review I've heard from you is that you didn't quite care for it.
Well, I think this is, I think I know what you're about to say. And it's also a thing that I did change opinions on. I told you a little bit that I changed my opinion on it. We haven't really talked about it since. But is it the new Mastodon album?
Hushed and Grim.
Yeah. I think that. I like Hushed and Grim. My main problem with it is that it's so fucking long.
Well, yeah, of course. They've been in fucking quarantine for 2 years.
So have all these other bands that have released, and they didn't release an hour and a half long album. But yeah, like it is good. It's the new Mastodon album. It is good. I do like it. It's just so long. And like, you know, I still have a couple of complaints about it. They aren't complaints about of quality per se. It's more of like I want to hear more Brent.
There's Brent on it. I've heard some Brent on it.
And there's one song especially that he takes the lead vocals on, but like I wanted to hear more of Brent's vocals because he's my favorite singer in the band.
Right. But it's mostly Braun and Troy.
It's mostly Braun and Troy, which is not bad.
No.
But in any case, we'll talk about Hushed and Grim by Mastodon next Wednesday. So till then, maybe visit our social media pages, Facebook and Twitter. Follow us there. We'll post episode links if you want to listen to us in your browser, maybe while you're at work. Otherwise, you can follow us or like us or subscribe, whatever the fuck you do on Apple Podcasts.
However you interact.
Do they call it? Is it subscribe? Do you know?
Yeah, you can subscribe.
Subscribe to our feed on Apple Podcasts.
And then it loads directly into my phone.
There we go. That's what it is.
Thing,
or do whatever you do on Libsyn's, the podcast source.
By the way, I had to go through I went through my phone and said, why is my memory so full?
This is a podcast.
Podcast? Oh, shit, 6 gigabytes of podcasts?
I mean, they're long. They're not short.
No, they're not.
It's a lot of audio.
I only subscribed to like 6 of them.
It's the equivalent of an album of audio.
Sure. Well, it's an hour, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for listening to this episode of the Bronze Metalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations.